Hello guys, so we are going to be making a Unity game, and this is a tutorial for beginners and people who don't really understand Unity yet, but want to get into game development and all that. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into Unity. Let's just go in here and create a new project, and let's start up. We're gonna be creating a 2D project, but we're gonna be using 3D things in there, so it doesn't really matter if it's just 2D or 3D. So let's just go ahead and name it and call it. Well, the game itself is actually going to be like an action, high score based platformer game. Like you have to collect things and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and put in a name for it. Let's just call it action. If my keyboard would work, action platformer, and save it wherever you want to save it. Is that where I want to save it? Probably. No, I do not want to save it. Why would I save it in there? Okay, let's go ahead and save it in a proper place. Unity. Okay. Now we can go ahead and continue. So name it, click create project. I'm gonna go ahead and not save mine. So let's load up a brand new thing, and we're gonna do this from scratch. And I'll take you guys through the step of doing everything. In the first one, we're gonna go ahead and set up our project and give our character movements, basically jumping around and walking around our platform that we're gonna have. So let's get started. If your scene hopefully looks exactly like mine, that's good. If not, you can rearrange these things by picking up from right here, little, and just drop. There's tons of tutorials on this stuff, so you guys can look that up on yourself. But if you have any questions, let me know. So we're gonna go ahead and make it 2D, just simply by clicking 2D, and you can see everything is 2D now. The way you move the screen around here is by holding the middle mouse button over here in the scene, and you can just drag around. Simple, right? Simple. Okay, so before we do anything, I think we need some sort of, since we don't really want to create or draw things right now to work with, let's just go ahead and import one of the assets that Unity offers. There's a billion of them, but let's, why not get some? So usually there's an asset store window over here, but for some reason it's not here. No problem, we can just go in window and asset store. Once this opens, we're gonna go over here. Let's click later. Now if I can remember correctly, platformer. If I go price, I should have remembered the name of it, but I do not remember the name of it. Here it is, 2D platformer asset by Unity asset. So if you type in 2D platformer on top, you'll get this free one by Unity. This has enough drawings for us to work with, so we're gonna go ahead and download this. It's gonna download it, then you have to import it. So let's wait for it to download. Go ahead, click import. And then it shows you all the things that we're going to be getting from it, which is awesome. There might be too many things actually. All we need is the drawings. You know what? I'm going to do that. We do not need clips. We do not need controllers. We can keep the... No, we'll get audio when we need it. Don't need the font. Don't need the material. Well, let's keep the materials. And the physics materials. We can keep these prefabs. Don't need scripts. Don't need the scene. Basically all I want is actually this. This is all I want, the sprites. I don't need any of the other things. So we're gonna go ahead and unclick everything else. So you can unclick the project settings. If you go ahead and just close up these things, you can see what's going on here. You can close everything, even the prefab. So just unclick, 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 even unclick, unclick. All we need is the sprites. We just need drawings. We don't need, honestly, I mean, we'll probably go ahead and create our own, but just for the sake of having something. So, you can get anything else if you want, doesn't matter. I just want something to work with, so I'm going to go ahead and import these sprite packages over here. Everything else is unchecked. So let's import that. Actually, I haven't looked at this asset, so I don't know what's in there, but honestly, like I said, all I need is one drawing and we can start coding. So yada yada, and look at that. We've got, you can click back to the scene over here. Oh wow, they have tons and tons of things. Like, for example, oh, I double clicked it. For example, like this. It's perfect. Platformer top. Sweet. We'll keep that as our ground for now to have something for our character to walk on. Then let's get our character in here. So go click sprites, characters, and again, it doesn't really matter right now. So I'm just gonna click something that already exists, like this one, even though it says dead, but he's a whole character. So I'm gonna go ahead and drag him out. Whoosh. See, character. Alrighty, because I don't want anything, if you do drag something else, I don't want any of the other components in here. All I want is the transform and the sprite renderer. If there's anything else in there, you can just click this gearbox and remove, because we do not want anything else in there, because we're going to do everything from scratch. If you drag something like this, I think, yeah, see, it has stuff, and we don't want to, we're not going to do stuff like that. We want it as simple as possible. So let's start renaming things as well. I'm going to go ahead and click the platform and just call it floor. Gonna click this, and for now let's just call it character. Did I spell it wrong? Yes, I did. Go ahead and call it player. And capital F for floor. Okay, so now we got the floor and the player, and then light in the camera. Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and create our first script. If you get these errors, don't worry about them. Just clear them for now. Okay, let's go ahead and create a script. So there's multiple ways of creating a script. You know, we can just click add component, which is how you usually do it, or you can click over here, right click, and create script. But we're gonna go ahead and click on the player, because that's the one we want to control. I'm gonna click add component. We're gonna type in player script. Now notice I have small p and capital S. Okay, that's just, it's called camel casing, and we're gonna be doing that a lot. Again, this is for beginners. So if you are, you know, someone who's already done coding and stuff like that, you already know what I'm talking about. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and click player script, press enter, make sure it's C#, and press enter again. Now we have a script, but there's nothing in there. So let's double click it. Now your software might be different. If you do install Unity for the first time, I think it opens MonoDevelop. If it does not, and it opens this and there's asking you to log in and stuff like that, and you don't want to log in and stuff like that, all you have to do is go into edit. I think it's preferences. Yeah, preferences, external tools, and you can change this from MonoDevelop to or back to MonoDevelop. MonoDevelop works 100%. Visual Studios doesn't always work, because I mean it does, but you have to do more things for it. Okay, so player script. Let's open it. You're gonna get a blank slate like that. We have a start function and update function. Again, I'm not going to go through everything, just going to try to keep this simple and short. All we want is the player to move. That's what we're going to do. So let's start by creating some variables. We're going to go ahead and create a public variable, call it float, because that's a number. And I mean, sorry, call it speed. Float is a type. So it's a number. It's a variable that anything can access. It's a number, and that's the name. Right, sequence, and we don't even have to define it or like give it a value yet, so let's just declare it. Let's create another one, another float, and call it movement, and then let's create a private variable this time, and let's create a rigid body. A rigid body is basically the physics, so we need to access the player's physics. So it's going to be 2D, rigid body 2D. Make sure you don't select the rigid body. It's a rigid body 2D. And then give it a name. Let's call it my body. Control S all the time. In the start function, so when the game starts, we want to assign my body the actual body so we can use it later. So we're going to go ahead and type in my body equals. Now we're going to get that component. We're going to click get component. And what component? It's the rigid body 2D, because that's what we defined this as. So it has to be that component. And then you have to usually do parentheses over here, and then semicolon. Whoosh. Now the issue is we don't really have a rigid body on our character yet. So we're going to go back in Unity, click our player, and you can see those two public variables show up here. That's fine, don't need to touch them yet. We're going to click add component, and we're going to type in rigid body and rigid body 2D. Fantastic. Okay, so now that we have a physics rigid body on our character, he will actually fall down if you click play, because gravity is being applied. but we need to give colliders to the character and the floor. So we're going to go ahead and click plus, or sorry, add component. Let's just give it a box collider, and you can usually see it with the green line over here, and it's way out of shape. So we can either click edit collider over here and then just resize it by dragging with the mouse, which is easy. Just these points and boom. Now we have a collider on our thing. Now we got to give this floor a collider, so we're going to do the same thing over here. We don't have to give it the rigid body because it's not going to be moving up and down. It's just static. So we can give the box collider. We can align this better. So let's go ahead and click edit collider and just drag it down like that. Just match it to what it is. Okay, that's fine. Unclick that. So now our player, and they both have collider. So now if you click play, you'll see it land on there. Awesome. So now we can start moving this character around. Let's go back into our script. So now we have our physics body, which we assign to the player, and now we can access it in the script. So let's make that do stuff. We're going to go ahead and deal with the movement first before the jump. So let's go type in, let's see, what do we do first? Let's do movement first. So movement equals input get axis, and axis just means it's a predefined Unity thing. So this just means either up and down or left or right, right? Those are the axes. So we're going to do get axis, and which axis? We're going to get the horizontal axis. So this is going to basically get the value. If you're pressing left, it's going to be -1. If you're pressing right, it's going to be +1, and it's going to assign that value into this variable. So this variable keep updating live. So when I hold down the right mouse or right arrow key, this is going to go to 1, and if I hold a negative key, it's going to go to -1. Great, great. Okay, so let's do another variable over here. Which one do we have? Actually, we don't need to do anything. That's all. I mean, now we have the direction, right? Because if you're holding right, we know if it's +1, then we're going to be moving right. If it's -1, then it should be moving left. So let's use our body, my body dot add force, and we're going to go ahead and add a vector 2. So that's a direction in 2 directions. And then we're going to do dot right. This honestly, if you do a right or left, it doesn't matter, because we just need to give it, left and right direction. So let's just call it right. But then what we're going to do, we're going to trick it. We're going to multiply this by movement. Now, if you remember, we know that if we're holding right, it's going to be +1. If it's -1, so it's going to be -1. So when it's plus, it will be moving right because it was going right anyways. But if it's a negative value, it's going to be moving left. See? So we're going to multiply this, because we don't want it to be too slow, by speed, which we will assign outside. And then multiply by one more thing, and this thing is just it's a little hard to explain to beginners, so let's just I'll try to explain the best I can, but let's just write it time.delta time. This basically means it's going to be updated frame by frame. Actually, I'm not even sure about the 100%. Basically, it equalizes, things don't go haywire. It keeps everything in control. So usually when you're doing physics, you have to multiply by time.delta time. Don't worry, don't think too much about it. Let's just move on. Okay, so now actually that would be enough to move our characters, because we have left and right value, and we're adding force accordingly. So let's save the script, Control S, go back out. Now if you press play, you can see, oh, wrong key. Oh no, what'd I miss? Oh, sorry, I paused it. I got really confused for a second. I have not given it a speed, it's 0. So let's just give it 10. Why not? Then click play. And then it's still not doing, oh, well, actually it is. Very slowly. So if we go back in player here and give our speed of like 1000 over here, we should be able to move left and right if you click play with the arrow keys. And you can, look at that. Except he doesn't slow down, he'll keep going. Well, actually he does eventually slow down. There is somewhat drag, but you can see he goes on forever. So to make him stop quicker, we're gonna just add drag over here. So let's just give it like 2. And you know what, just for the heck of it, we're gonna make this longer because it's too small. So we're gonna just Control D to duplicate the floor and just put it right here. Control D again, and then zoom out by scrolling mouse wheel, and then Control D again, and boom. Now we have some sort of a longer platform. So now if we do the arrow keys, you can see us moving. And see, we do slow down. So there it is. Oh, and we tipped over. But we got movement, left and right. Where is the player? Right, okay, so we have 2 drags. So now you can mess around with the speed and the drag values to make it, you know, to your suiting. But, you know, I can make this more, and just basically mess with those 2 values to get our character moving. And honestly, I think I'm going to stop the tutorial over here because I don't want them to be too long. I want to keep them short. So I was going to do jump this time too, but we're not going to do jumping right now. We'll do jumping in the next one. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed watching it. And then next time we're going to make this guy jump around like a crazy guy. He is. Look at him. He's a blob. All right. Well, see you guys then.